Hey everyone, I've got a new project that I'm going to start this evening and to share it with as many people as I can. If this works, it could be it could be a game changer, honestly. What you're looking at here, this is my dash for my 1968 Ford Falcon, and it is pretty rough. If you have an older car that has an early vinyl dash, like a late 60s or early 70s car, you probably recognize what I'm looking at here. We've got cracks. Previous owner put one of those carpety covers over it. That's all the Velcro tabs that are all over it. And at some point in time, somebody hacked a hole in the dash to install a stereo. So really, this thing is pretty much junk. There's not a lot of redeeming qualities to it. So I'm going to try flocking the dash. Now, if you've never seen flocking before, this is it's been around for a while. A lot of people use it for like art projects. It's kind of big in the like tabletop gaming world. It creates kind of a suede texture. Basically, you put these fibers into this little blow can. It has these little holes in the front. Slide it out, and then when you collapse it, it blows those fibers onto glue. Now this is all black, so if this works, this will be a nice suede textured black dash. But obviously, if you just flock this, it's going to look terrible. It's not going to cover up a big crack like that, or this ramp that we have here, or any of these little Velcro pieces. You know, it's not going to cover that up. So we need to make the dash look right. And to do that, I've got a couple of products here. This is Great Stuff Sealing Foam. Now I'm going to try to use this to recreate the foam in this dash. I'm going to fill in all the cracks with expanding foam and then sand it down, make it look nice, and then cover it with a layer of Bondo brand putty. And this stuff it's not body putty. This is flexible putty. I don't know how flexible. I don't know if this is going to be the right stuff. It's not urethane putty. It's not for like plastic dash or plastic bumpers. It's kind of in between the two. We'll see how that looks. Sand that all down. It should give me a nice smooth surface. Hopefully it lasts. But first, we have to get this cleaned up. So I'm going to take a regular carpet knife, a razor blade, my little hobby shears here, the Dremel tool. All of these things are to get this all cleaned up. I want to get all of this taken down to where it's actually something usable. Get the cracks cleaned out, get that old nasty foam that's been exposed for years, get that all taken out, get all of these peeled back, and then get all of the residue cleared off of it with our cleaning supplies here, and then start rebuilding the dash from the base out. And the best part is, if I do wreck this, I already have another dash that I'm going to be using. I'm really not out anything. This thing is basically garbage. If I don't do this thing gets thrown in the trash. The other dash that I have is in a little bit better condition. Yeah, I could probably use it as it is. You know, if this works, maybe I do it to that one as well. But you can't buy this dash. This is a 1968 Falcon dash. They were the same 68 through 70, and you can't get a replacement for it. You can have it recovered, but that's a couple $100. All this stuff here, we're talking maybe $50 total, and that includes like the Dremel tool, and well, not the tool itself, but the bits that I'm going to use with it. Yeah, it's not an expensive trial and error attempt. If it saves it, great. If it doesn't, I'm really not out that much. Besides, we're all trapped inside anyway. Coronavirus has us doing whatever we can to keep busy. This is what I'm going to do. So, there will be more coming. And I'm going to get to cleaning off disgusting, ancient, grody Velcro strips. All right. Well, I've managed to get all of the little Velcro spots peeled off, but they're still tacky, and it's just kind of really, it's going to be a long process to get rid of these things. You can see here, let's see if I can get this one to show up. There's just a gummy film over each one of these, and really all you can do is just soak it with gum out, or goof off. I don't know if this is the right stuff to be using on these, but it does seem to be working. It's loosening up the glue pretty well. It's meant for graffiti and ink, sticky, that kind of stuff. So it's got to be doing something, and it is sort of working. The main thing is that we want this surface to look and feel consistent once we're done. And at some point I'm probably going to be taking sandpaper to this. I don't want this gummy gunk to goo up the sandpaper as I'm using it. So you just keep going one after another and hit each one of these spots, and then we'll see how this looks. The next step is going to be filling these gaps in, and that's going to probably be the most time consuming of it all. This isn't hard, it's just slow. But you can see also this back edge, this is right up against the windshield, has this tar. Somebody thought they would seal the back edge of the, I don't even know what that is. It's not paint, it's like weather strip caulk or something. And somebody thought they would seal the back edge of the dash, I guess. Get all of that off of there, make this all nice and uniform, and then start filling holes. So I wanted to see how this would look with this great stuff as a filler. So I went ahead and I started trimming out this really bad crack along the along the speaker grill. And you can see this is only one of the several, but this was probably one of the more abrupt. This is now relatively flat. You can see on this one there's a pretty good lift, about almost a finger depth where it's curling up. That was the same case with this one. So I cut it back a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some filler to it, and we'll see how that behaves. I'm going to go ahead and put the camera on the tripod again here. And let's see what we get. By the way, this is a really messy job. That cutting that foam out is not good. Now you can be pretty aggressive with this. It's going to expand. And we're going to shave that down once it's done. And once that dries and hardens, we can shape that into a flat piece that matches the dash. And we'll see how that works. I'm 60-40 that this is going to look right, but we'll see how it goes. It's definitely it definitely filled the hole the way I expected it to. I can say that for sure. All right, next day here, and what you see there, that is the Expandafoam after curing. We're going to take our handy little utility knife here, and we're going to start shaving it off. And we're going to get this down to where the old dash was. In fact, I can just start with this little corner right here. Maybe we'll even flip this up. Oh, look at that. Sneaking through on the underside. So we know we've got good seal. The nice thing is, this vinyl is still thick enough where you can feel when you're hitting it with the blade. There you can see my wonderful stereo install job while I'm at it here. They really did a nice job hacking a hole in the dash. Not entirely happy with that, but it's not too bad. I could have gone a little bit further over on that particular crack. As it was getting into that defrost vent, there's a little lump there, but not too bad. I'm just going to keep shaving away. Now I have the blade on this utility knife very far out because there is this thickness of the handle. You can see the blade is not offset to one side. I know there are hobby knives and whatnot that can get you closer, but my intention is to use this instead. This is a, what is this thing, like a sheetrock hand planer. Actually, the foam, this is a little coarse for the foam. It's going to just shred that foam if I keep going. That is actually pretty darn smooth, though. Now I'm doing this with the grain of the plane here, not against the grain. If I go against the grain, it's just going to tear that foam apart. If I go like this, very, very light here. It is really quick to take that foam down. Very, very light pressure. Get that. And you can see the plane is wider than the foam that I'm attacking. look at that. That is actually pretty darn good. See that? Now, I'm not terribly worried about how that's going to match the contours and whatnot in here. Again, if I were doing this as like a restoration, this is probably not the way to do this. There are other videos online that show you how to do this with plastic welding and vinyl repair and all that kind of stuff. If you were doing this for a restoration, that's probably more the direction you want to go. If you're doing this for the purpose of this car, to make a dash that doesn't look like pure garbage, I think this is going to work. So I'm going to keep going here. Next video, I'll probably have most of these cracks filled in, and then we're going to move on with the body putty. Or I shouldn't say body putty. The all-purpose putty. That is Bondo brand all-purpose putty. This is supposed to be more flexible than body putty. We'll see how it turns out. All right, another chapter here. I've managed to cut away a lot of the areas of trouble here, and I just wanted to show you. You can see there's the defrost vents. Now here we see a good example. There's two different types of foam in there. There's a brown color outer shell. That's the stuff that's really brittle, and it's flying around here as I'm using the Dremel tool. The darker gray stuff like in there, that's still soft. That's your padding, that's your cushioning material. I gotta imagine GM and Chrysler were the same way, that they had some sort of harder outer shell underneath the vinyl, and then a soft, pliable foam underneath that. Now, when we're replacing the foam with the great stuff, that tan color, that's really what we want to replace. The darker gray stuff, I'm going to leave most of that intact. You can see this chunk came out, this piece came out pretty much in its entirety. Not going to think about that too much. But and here too, like the speaker grill, I might just replace the speaker grill in its entirety. I don't have a front speaker for this car, so I might just cover that over entirely. It was really, really brittle. In fact, I'm sure I can just, it just comes apart in my hand. So I might cut the entire whole section out of that, like this entire 4x10 square, and just recover that. This piece over here, notice that right there, that's the metal structure of the dash. And you've got about 1.5 inches or 2 inches of padding out from that. But you only have 1/8 of an inch of foam on top of it. You can, I don't know if the camera's picking this up, you can see where that line is all the way across this dash. That's the metal frame, and everything this side of it is just foam. So you got to be really careful with an area like this. I really don't want to cut the bottom part of this out, because then I don't have anything to spray the foam into. I've got to almost, I think of like a 3D printer. Rather than filling a hole, I have to make the dash foam again. And I really don't want to do that. Luckily, the underside of this is actually in pretty good shape. I'm probably going to cut a little more out of here. The more I got to messing with this, the more brittle it actually is, and now I've actually split it a little bit more. Yeah. But we'll keep going, and almost ready to start spraying foam again. By this afternoon, I think I will be. All right. Well, I've got it mostly cleaned up, and I'm ready to start spraying the next layer of our wonderful, great stuff. Now, I put a piece of cardboard behind the speaker tray here, because I haven't cut the speaker tray out. I'm going to try it without cutting the speaker tray out, and hopefully it'll be okay. It's this, what's remaining, I could probably cut a little more of the edges off, but I'm going to give it a go, and I'm going to give it a clear, nice, flat layer of putty over top of it when I'm done. It is actually pretty flat. That's the main thing. It is actually, the shape is okay. The shape in here, there was a big lump in here. It was a big deformed section. And that's really what we're trying to eliminate, are the deformed sections. So, here goes the great stuff. We're going to start with the big gap here. You can hear it coming out. There we go. There's our nice flow. Now this is going to expand, so this is going to be quite a bit of this stuff in here. I'm going to build up the center section a little bit, and then we're going to cut it back down, of course, when we're done. Yeah, kind of like that. I'm going to get a little more up in here. I'll come down here. You can see I laid down some paper towels just to protect my table a little bit, because this is messy. There you have it. Now, get a little bit more in there. There's one thing about it. You can be pretty generous with this stuff. And again, it's pretty cheap, so not like we need to be real conservative. We're going to cut this stuff away anyway, so give it the good stuff. Now this time, unlike last night, I actually care to make this okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this leftover piece of wire. This is just your typical 16 gauge underdash wiring. And I'm going to push it through our foam. And just like that, the tube is clear. I'm going to rinse that off in the sink. They're right behind you here. Nasty, gnarly stuff, I tell you. And we'll do the same with our little adapter that goes on top of the can. Pull that off. I'm going to just rinse it off a little bit. And I'm going to take a nice chunk of leftover wire. Feed it through the nozzle. And let that chill out for the rest of the day. Gotta wash again because, oh man, this stuff is worse than anti-seize or gear oil or any of those other stereotypical nasty, gnarly things. This stuff gets everywhere and then it expands. It's disgusting. But man, it works. And there you have it. You can see it's already starting to expand. We're just going to let it do its thing. And come back in a couple of hours. See how it's doing. All right. Well, we got it all filled in here. You can see that looks like a mess, a giant pile of ice cream. I already cut some of the bottom edges off just to get the paper towel loose. Because obviously the foam that dropped down, it glued the dash to the paper towel, but that's why the paper towel was there to begin with, right? So I'm going to start trimming this up now, and we'll see how this cleans up. I can tell you the ones down here at the center, kind of right in there, those two are already coming together very nicely. It filled in those cracks behind the defrost vents very nice. So I'm thinking it's going to be okay. All right. Well, the foam is dry, and I've been shaping it. I'll just show you real quick here. So this is my planer. I think these are normally used for like sheetrock work, but this actually works really well to smooth out this foam. Now this doesn't have to be perfect. You can see there's some air holes and whatnot in here that we're going to fill in with that putty. But the main thing is getting that. The main thing that we're looking for is to get that hole filled, that gape hole in the dash. And that's what we're really going after here. So I'm going to mix up the putty, and next up will be the hard stuff. All right, so it's puttied. I know it hasn't, not exactly a picture perfect job on the putty, but it's going to sand up anyway. I tried to get a good covering over all the cracks. Looks like I got a little bit more to do on that one. You can just see the edge of the crack coming up right there. Just dab that in there a little bit. And I'm kind of trying to work in the contour of the dash, but really, this is going to have to be sanded anyway. I don't like the way it sticks to the vinyl in places. I think that might actually be some of the Goo Gone that I had on here before. But we'll see how it dries. Give it some time to dry. Overall, though, it definitely filled it in. You can see here, this was that canyon going down this part. And this, you can kind of see the little speaker bumps, but for the most part, they are gone. So, even got some in the corners of the radio that were really hacked up. We'll see how this looks once it's all dry, sand it, and then we get to flocking. So, stay tuned. All right, so back again. I've got the dash all puttied up and sanded as good as I'm going to make it. Now, I want to stress again, this is not a restoration. This is just, it's to make it look better than garbage. So, I didn't put a ton of time and effort into making the putty real smooth and real filled in, but it's going to fill the holes. You can probably see some variance in there. I can't tell how this is going to look on the iPhone, but overall, the big cracks are filled in. They're fairly flat. They're good enough for the car that it's going into. I wouldn't put this in a show car by any means, and I'd spend a ton more time on filling in the cracks if I really wanted it to look nice. But honestly, I don't care. Next step is the Flocket. So this is the glue, and this is color matched to the flock that you're going to try and use. Pretty typical clean surface. We've already got this kind of cleaned up and dried off. We're going to shake it. Now, one thing. This, once we spread this on, we need to flock it in about 10 minutes. And this is a pretty big piece, so we're going to go fast. And I've got a big brush to layer this on. Now, I'm going to stress it again. This is the first time I've ever done this. I've never done something this large scale. I have no idea how this is going to work. There are about 1,000 other videos on YouTube to look at if you decide you want to do this. I highly suggest you take their recommendations over mine. But here we go. This is basically just really thick black paint, which I gotta say, even if the flocking doesn't work, this doesn't look too bad. Be aware when you're doing this, don't wear nice clothes. This is some gooey stuff. This is worse. This is on par with the great stuff. I won't say this is worse. This is on par. Now, ideally, I would be doing this in an area where I don't have to rotate. I don't have that luxury in my basement here, and I'm not going to do this outside right now. It's a little too cold to be doing this outside. passengers that it does have, they're going to have other things to distract them from the look of the dash. All right, it is in. Now, don't mind the lack of steering wheel here. That's another issue that's getting resolved. But take a look at that. That is so much better. I can't even begin to explain it. Yeah, it's not perfect, and this is not a show car. Hence, lack of steering wheel. The trailer hitch lamp stuck in the dash. I didn't do that. The butchered stereo hole here, with then the stereo relocated to the dash. One of those switches turns on my reverse lamps. This is not a quality car whatsoever. But that dash, that's very usable. Yep, I didn't do the defrost vents as thoroughly as I could have. Not worried about it. Yep, the underside, I don't know if you can see that. It's not totally even all the way across there. I don't care. The main thing is it looks better than it did.